On the verge of her 18th birthday, the young girl felt the weight of both hope and despair pressing upon her heart, a strange mixture of emotions that had become her constant companion ever since the loss of her father. She had once lived in a house filled with love, laughter, and the warmth of a family that valued kindness above all else, but everything changed the day her father married again. The woman who entered their lives wore a mask of charm in front of others, smiling sweetly and speaking with calculated politeness, but behind closed doors she revealed her true nature, cruel and controlling, cold and cunning, a stepmother whose only interest lay in seizing power and wealth for herself. The girl, kind-hearted and gentle, found herself imprisoned within her own home, forbidden from pursuing friendships or education freely, her voice silenced by threats and manipulations, her world reduced to walls that seemed to grow narrower each passing day. She often gazed out of her small bedroom window, watching the seasons change, dreaming of freedom and of a life where her kindness might be seen not as weakness but as strength, yet every dream seemed to vanish whenever her stepmother's footsteps echoed down the hallway. With each dawn, she counted the days to her 18th birthday, for she knew her father's will had left her inheritance safely locked away until that moment, the key to her independence and survival, but she also knew her stepmother's greed burned too fiercely for her to allow that day to pass peacefully. Whispers overheard at night, papers suspiciously hidden, and strange visitors to the estate had filled the girl with unease, and she slowly pieced together the outlines of a sinister plot. Her stepmother intended to strip her of everything, to forge documents, to manipulate legal guardianship, to make sure the fortune her father had left in her name would never reach her hands. Fear gnawed her, but so did determination, for she could not allow the legacy of her father to be stolen so heartlessly. She had been underestimated all her life, treated as fragile, naive, incapable of resistance, and yet beneath her gentle surface stirred a quiet resilience, the strength of someone who had endured years of cruelty without losing her compassion. The walls of her prison had taught her patience, her silence had sharpened her observations, and every moment of suffering had built a courage she was only now beginning to recognize within herself. As the fateful birthday approached, her stepmother's cruelty intensified, the punishments harsher, the surveillance stricter, as though the woman sensed that control was slipping away. The girl endured, swallowing her fear, planning in secret, replaying scenarios in her mind where she might turn her stepmother's schemes against her. Every locked door, every harsh word, every night spent crying into her pillow only added fuel to her resolve that she would not be broken. She thought of her father. Before it's too late, she finds herself caught in a race against time, her mind working tirelessly to untangle the traps laid out by her stepmother. But just as the darkness threatened to consume her completely, two unexpected figures entered her life and changed its course in ways she never could have foreseen. The first was a caring teacher, one of the very few adults who ever dared to look beyond the polite lies her stepmother told the world, a man who had noticed the exhaustion behind her forced smiles and the sadness hidden in her eyes. He had once been a quiet observer, bound by the limitations of his position, but something about the girl's silent resilience stirred his conscience, and he began to take small risks to guide her, slipping her books, offering her knowledge about law and rights, planting seeds of courage and reminding her in subtle ways that she was not as powerless as she had been made to believe. His presence became a flicker of light in her otherwise oppressive world, a reminder that kindness still existed, and though he could not openly defy the stepmother's authority, his whispered advice gave her tools she would need when the decisive moment arrived. Yet it was the second ally, the mysterious stranger with a dark past, who truly shattered the walls of her isolation. He appeared in her life like a shadow at first, someone she was taught to fear, a man spoken of in hushed rumors around town, marked by mistakes and sins that had driven him to the edge of society. But beneath his rough exterior and haunted eyes, she discovered something unexpected, a man who understood what it meant to be caged by fate, to be judged unfairly, to carry wounds that refused to heal. He was not a savior in shining armor, he was a flawed, broken soul who had stumbled upon her plight by chance yet felt compelled to help, perhaps because he saw in her innocence the piece of himself he thought lost forever. Their bond formed in secret, fragile at first, built on cautious trust, but as her stepmother's schemes grew bolder and the deadline of her birthday loomed, this unlikely ally became her shield against dangers she could not face alone. He taught her the value of strength not written in books, the kind of courage that comes from daring to stand even when the world wants you on your knees. Together, the teacher's wisdom and the stranger's raw determination created a lifeline she clung to, balancing the gentleness of guidance with the fierceness of protection. Still, every step forward felt like walking on a razor's edge, for the stepmother's eyes were always watching, her influence spreading into every corner of the town, her connections reaching into places the girl never imagined. Documents could be forged, witnesses bribed, and the law twisted in the hands of someone ruthless enough to exploit its weaknesses. The girl knew that failure meant not only the loss of her inheritance but also the loss of her freedom forever, perhaps even her life. 4H. The morning of her 18th birthday dawned heavy with silence, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for the outcome of the battle that was about to unfold, and though the air carried the chill of fear, within the girl's heart a flame of determination burned brighter than ever before. She knew this day would not be ordinary. It was the day her fate would be decided, the day when her stepmother's years of manipulation, cruelty, and greed would either triumph or collapse. She dressed quietly, her trembling hands betraying the storm within, yet her eyes, once filled with sadness, now carried a steel-like glint of courage. Her stepmother moved through the halls with the poise of a queen certain of victory, her smile sharp and cruel as she clutched the forged papers she believed would strip the girl of her inheritance forever. But what the stepmother did not know was that the girl, armed with the wisdom of her teacher and the strength of her mysterious ally, had spent weeks preparing for this very moment, gathering evidence, memorizing the flaws in the documents, and finding the cracks in her stepmother's carefully woven lies. As they entered the chamber where the reading of the will and the signing of the documents would take place, tension hung thick in the air, the atmosphere electric with unspoken conflict. The stepmother's ally sat smugly, convinced of the girl's helplessness, while she sat quietly, her gaze lowered yet her mind alert, every detail around her registering with startling clarity. When the stepmother attempted to present the forged documents, her voice smooth with false concern, the girl's heart raced, but she remembered the teacher's words, "Do not speak until the time is right, let her arrogance expose her lies." She waited, listening, observing, and then, when the silence demanded her response, she rose with trembling grace and spoke with a voice stronger than she had ever known. She pointed out the inconsistencies, the altered signatures, the dates that did not align, and to the astonishment of all present, she revealed the hidden truth she had uncovered, proof of her stepmother's deception, carefully preserved and ready to strike at the heart of the woman's scheme. Gasps echoed through the room, the stepmother's mask slipping as rage distorted her elegant features, but even then, she tried to twist the narrative, to cast blame upon the girl. It was then that her allies stepped forward. The teacher, calm and composed, presented his own testimony, confirming her claims with authority, while the mysterious stranger, his dark past lending weight to his words, revealed how he had witnessed the stepmother's secret dealings and brought evidence that none could deny. Together, their voices formed an unshakable shield around her, their loyalty breaking through the isolation she had suffered for so long, and for the first time, the girl felt the true strength of unity. The stepmother, cornered and desperate, lashed out.